What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel, and today, once again, I think we have another informative and very interesting video that focuses in on three different NBA legends, that being Michael Jordan, LeBron James, as well as Kobe Bryant. But today, it's going to be a little different, as we're not going to focus in on their NBA careers and their overall greatness. We're going to be going all the way back before these players even step foot on an NBA court and seeing what the experts, the GMs, and the scouts were saying about these three players entering the NBA draft. Now, before we do that, make sure to like this video, and if you haven't already subscribed, make sure to do so. Now, with all that being said, let's get into the video and look at our first NBA legend, that being Michael Jordan. So, Michael Jordan, as you guys know, he spent 3 years at the University of North Carolina under head coach Dean Smith. And the last year Jordan played with the Tar Heels was his junior year. And in that junior year, he averaged 19.6 points per game, 5.3 boards, 2.1 assists, 1.6 steals, just over 1 block a game, while shooting 55.1% from the field. And because of that great season, Jordan, he was able to win the Wooden Award, the Naismith Award, the AP Player of the Year Award. He was named to the All-ACC First Team, and he was an All-American. And that made Jordan one of the top prospects heading in the 1984 draft. Now, the Jordan that you guys know and remember from his Bulls days, this was not the same Jordan coming out of UNC in 1984. According to the scouts, this Michael Jordan had many flaws in his game. And the biggest question mark surrounding Jordan's game is if he could shoot the outside jump shot and be a good jump shooter. And Bulls GM Rob Thorne is quoted as saying the following: "Back then, the knock on Michael was that he couldn't shoot the ball. For a long time, that first season, he just drove the ball." So Jordan's outside jump shot, that was definitely a point of emphasis that he definitely needed to improve. And one other big criticism he received is the fact that he was only 195 pounds and 6'6", and they wondered if he could handle himself against the bigs of the NBA. And at this time in the mid-80s, I think it's important to point out that basically all the GMs, all the coaches, all the scouts thought you needed a big man to be successful. You needed your Wilt, your Russell, your Kareem, or your Moses Malone. But one guy who really objected to that notion was Hall of Fame coach at Indiana, Bob Knight. And when Bob Knight was asked by Portland's GM who he should take with the number 2 pick, Sam Bowie or Michael Jordan, Bob Knight responded with the following, quote, "Play him, Jordan, at center, and he'll be the best center in the league." Now, obviously that quote is being a little bit sarcastic. What he's really saying is that you can't pass up on Michael Jordan just because you need a center. You have to take the best player available, and that was definitely Michael Jordan. And Bob Knight, he was lucky enough to coach Jordan at the 1984 Olympics as well as the 1984 Olympic trials. And after coaching Jordan for some time, here's what he said about a young, inexperienced Jordan who had never stepped foot on an NBA court.
The kid is just an absolutely great kid. If I were going to pick the 3 or 4 best athletes I've ever seen play basketball, he'd be one of them. I think he's the best athlete I've ever seen play basketball, bar none. If I were going to pick people with the best ability I'd ever seen play the game, he'd be one of them. If I were going to pick the best competitors that I'd ever seen play, he'd be one of them. So in the categories of competitiveness, ability, skill, and then athletic ability, he's the best athlete, he's one of the best competitors, he's one of the most skilled players, and that to me makes him the best basketball player that I've ever seen play.
So Bob Knight, he was definitely high on Michael Jordan and knew that he'd be a great NBA player. And to give you guys some further insight, I want to show you a clip only moments after Jordan was drafted and see what the reaction was from the head scouts.
Chicago Bulls pick Michael Jordan of the University of North Carolina.
This man is a can't miss at whether a guard spot or the forward at 6'6", 195 pounds, comes out after his junior season from North Carolina.
And, you know, he makes them when they count. He can do it in traffic. He can do it under tremendous control. He's a great, great creator. In the mold of a Dr. J. Not as big, but he's in that class, and I think he's going to make a great player. He's what you call the people's player. People love to see this young man perform, and he's going to help my boy Kevin Lockyer an awful lot out there.
So in that clip, the scout definitely thought Jordan would be a solid and very good NBA player, and he even compared him to Dr. J. And for Jordan's early career, that really was his comparison, and that was looked at as him reaching the pinnacle of his peak. And actually, before Jordan was even drafted, there's a famous magazine cover where they asked the question, is Jordan the next Dr. J? And as you guys know, Jordan, he definitely surpassed that expectation and became better than anyone could ever imagine. So moving on, the next player we have to look at is none other than Kobe Bryant. And Kobe's path to the NBA, it was definitely different than Michael's, as Kobe opted to go straight from high school to the NBA draft. And in hindsight, I definitely think Kobe made the right decision, as in high school his senior year, he was absolutely dominant, averaging 30.8 points per game, 12.0 rebounds, 6.5 assists, 4 steals, and 3.8 blocks per game, and he was an All-State player, the Player of the Year, and a McDonald's All-American. And after that great senior year, Kobe opting to skip college and go straight to the NBA, he followed in the footsteps of Kevin Garnett, who had done it only a few years prior. They're really the first two players of the new wave high school to NBA prospects. And one thing I found that was super interesting was an old PDF file of Kobe's pre-draft evaluation. And in the scouting report, the scout says that Kobe has questionable ball handling skills, he doesn't know if he has an NBA-ready body, and age is definitely a huge question. But even with all that, he still projected Kobe to be a lottery pick and at worst the 12th pick in the NBA draft. And from what I could find, the teams that were most interested in drafting Kobe were the 76ers, the Celtics, the Nets, and the Lakers. And the first team that I want to focus in on is the Los Angeles Lakers, as there are some great stories of how Kobe impressed everyone at his pre-draft workout. So at this draft workout, Kobe, he was the only player in attendance, and the guy who was guarding him and playing defense was none other than Michael Cooper, a Lakers legend. And everyone who watched this draft workout said that Kobe, he was absolutely torching Michael Cooper, hitting 10 to 12 shots in a row at a time, and basically Cooper couldn't do anything to stop a 17-year-old Kobe Bryant. And Michael Cooper, he was definitely impressed by Kobe, as he said the following, quote, "I'll go ahead and use the word fear. There was no fear in him. I think that's what they were looking for." And Cooper also said that Kobe, quote, "had the eye of the tiger." And one guy who was impressed by this workout was none other than Jerry West, as he was quoted as saying the following, "For someone that age, it was remarkable. The skill and the love he had for the game and the desire to excel, I had never seen anyone with the skill level he had." And that coming from Jerry West, that is extremely high praise, as he's one of the smartest players in NBA history. Now, the next team that had their eye on Kobe was the Boston Celtics. And the Celtics' legendary GM, Red Auerbach, had the following to say about Kobe. Quote, "I think this kid is going to be a hell of a player, but it can go either way. He seems to be solid, but he's a high school kid. You've got to make a choice on what you need today, but I think he's going to be a hell of a player." And Kobe's workout for the Celtics, it was being led by the legend Dennis Johnson. And apparently, just like Michael Cooper, Kobe was dominating the older veteran. And the Celtics scouts were impressed so much, they were already comparing Kobe to a young Michael Jordan. Now, even with that high praise, still at this time in the NBA, with the new age of the high school to NBA prospect, there were still some unfair question marks. And the Celtics GM at the time was quoted as saying the following, quote, "I told the higher-ups that this kid was a tremendous talent, tremendous potential, outstanding approach to the game, but he probably wouldn't be ready to contribute to an NBA team for a couple of years." And he says that we couldn't afford to wait, unfortunately. So from what I could gather, really the only knock on Kobe is that he was too young. And absolutely nobody questioned his talent or his overall skill. And I want to show you guys a clip moments after Kobe was drafted.
People like this kid.
Well, everyone writing when he first came out, well, he's going to have to bulk up. This guy is 200 pounds at 6'6". He is an offensive whiz. He's very, very talented. He has all pro moves. And when you look at him, you're talking about a young man with range. He can go off the dribble. He can get his shot. And in every place that he worked out, nothing but raves. No one talking about any shortness or a weakness in his game.
So I think those comments from Hubie Brown, they provide some further insight. And after this draft, Kobe, he would eventually make his way to Lakers, and Jerry West was quoted as saying that he was surprised that Kobe didn't go earlier in the draft. And if it was him personally, he would have taken Kobe with the #1 pick. And in hindsight, that was definitely the right decision. And as you guys know, at the NBA draft, you have winners and you have losers. And this night, the big loser was John Calipari and the New Jersey Nets. As in this draft, they had the 8th pick, and they were trying to decide when drafting Kerry Kittles or Kobe Bryant. And here's what Calipari said only moments after they took Kerry Kittles over Kobe Bryant. Quote, "Well, we really like Kobe. I think he's going to be a terrific player in the NBA, but for us, right now, where we are and what we needed, I think in the end, the right choice was Kerry Kittles." So that quote 20 plus years later, it's obvious that Kerry Kittles, he was definitely not the right choice. And in 2008, when Kobe was preparing for the Olympics, John Calipari and him sat down for a brief interview discussing that 1996 NBA draft.
Kobe, I don't mean to call out anybody on our set named John Calipari, but I'm going to. He was head coach of the New Jersey Nets when he had an opportunity to draft Kobe Bryant. Do you remember who he selected instead?
Of course I do.
Go ahead, share with us.
Kerry Kittles.
Now, how many times did I have you up into New Jersey?
About 3 times.
3 times with your family. You know who I wanted to pick. I'd still be coaching, by the way, in the NBA if I had you. Just so you know
Coach,
that.
stop lying. Coach, stop lying. You knew you wanted Kerry Kittles because you was an East Coast dude, man. Go on that, man. Just say you messed up, Coach. You messed up. You messed up.
So obviously Calipari, like many GMs that night, they obviously regret passing on the young 17-year-old Kobe Bryant. Now moving on, our next player we have is LeBron James. And just like Kobe, LeBron made the leap from high school to the pros after a dominant senior year at St. Vincent St. Mary's, where he averaged 30.4 points per game, 9.7 boards, 4.9 assists, 2.9 steals, 1.9 blocks, while shooting 56% from the field. And after that great senior year, LeBron James, he was named the AP Player of the Year and Mr. Basketball in Ohio. And I think it's fair to say LeBron had the highest expectations of any American athlete in any sport. And entering the 03 draft, it was clear LeBron James, he was the outright #1 pick. And I want to show you guys a clip of Dick Vitale and Jay Billis talking about LeBron James moments before he was drafted #1 by the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Bottom line is, this kid has lived up to all the expectations. He has that special instinct, feel for the game. I'm going on my silver anniversary at ESPN. 25 years. He's the best high school player I have ever seen in my 25 years.
Does LeBron have everything that everybody's building him up to have?
Yeah, he's just as skilled as Kobe Bryant or Kevin Garnett at the same age, but he is far more physically imposing. And, Mike, I'll tell you, I don't think any reasonable basketball person would take anyone else #1 than LeBron James in this draft. It's an absolute no-brainer. He's got what it takes to be a great NBA player, and I think he will be.
So both those guys who've been watching NBA basketball as well as college basketball for decades said LeBron James, he was the best prospect they had ever seen. And once again, the expectations LeBron James had, they superseded anything before him and anything since. And I want to show you guys another video clip of LeBron and his high school coach talking about his expectations and his comparisons to NBA legends.
Another claim is that he's another of the Michael Jordan youth. That he's in love with just the dunk and the jump shot.
He wants to make the great pass as much as he wants to dunk the ball.
I like to share the wealth, you know. I just don't like getting all this for myself. It's all about the team.
My concern now is that we have put him on such a high pedestal that he can't live up to it. Even if he's successful, there's going to be those who say, well, he didn't do this. Well, he didn't do that. You know, and I feel for him for that because, you know, that's not fair. He's only 17.
Everyone, when they was younger, wanted to fly like Jordan, wanted to dish no-look passes like Magic, wanted to jump out of the gym like Julius, and wanted to shoot like Bird. You know, it's great to be compared to some of the greats.
To LeBron for a jam!
So LeBron at this time, he was receiving comparisons to Kobe, to Jordan, to Magic, to Bird, and basically any legend of the game that you can think of. And yes, those expectations, they are unfair for a player coming straight from high school, but LeBron James, he is a once-in-a-lifetime prospect. And as you guys know, he has more than lived up to those expectations. But next up, let's take a look at what some of the players of the Cleveland Cavaliers were saying about LeBron James before he was drafted.
We have better players than him in his position already on our team, though. His potential is probably the sky's the limit for him, though.
Good LeBron is just going to add to what we need, and just make things a little bit easier.
And he will come in and make an immediate impact like a Caron Butler, did for the Miami Heat.
I don't think you can really just bring a high school player in and really just think your team gonna really turn around like that. If he come, he can just hop on our bandwagon and hopefully we can do something big.
So obviously after watching that, a lot of those comments aged very, very poorly. And I think some of those comments can be chalked up to jealousy of a young player who's unproven coming in as the quote-unquote savior of a franchise. And one last clip I want to show you guys is from Jay Bilas talking about LeBron's weaknesses and his strengths the moment he was drafted.
I think, Mike, first you start with his body. LeBron James has an NBA body. He is prepared from a physical standpoint to make this jump to the NBA, as prepared as any high school player has ever been. 6'7.5", 240 pounds plus. He is strong and an absolute man. He is an extraordinary passer, a Magic Johnson type passer that can really see the floor and deliver the ball. He is easy to play with. He will be a great teammate because he doesn't need to score in order to impact a basketball game. He's also got explosion ability. LeBron James can get to the basket. He can rise up and finish once he gets there with that great athleticism, and he's got the handle and the first step in order to get to the hole. What does he need to improve upon? His defensive concentration. He needs to involve himself in more plays, not just hang back. He does defend. He needs to do a better job, and he's got to refine his shot. He is not a good jump shooter, but he shoots a good ball, and he shoots it with ease from range. I think with work on that jump shot, LeBron James can be a good jump shooter. He has got the complete package, the most prepared high school player ever, at least since Moses Malone, to jump into this league and play right away.
So that was a pretty spot-on analysis by Jay Bilas, as LeBron, the huge question marks he had early in his career with the jump shot, as well as his defensive ability. And 18 years later, I can confidently say LeBron James, he met and surpassed all of his expectations coming in to the 03 NBA draft. So that was our last player that we're going to highlight in this video. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I hope this video gave you guys some insight and some clarity to the overall feeling about these three players before they were taken in the NBA draft. So with that being said, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys next time.